In this episode, I'm going to share with you 7 really, really simple things to do or to check that you've done at the end of a day to help you regain consistency. So if you listen to this and you feel like there's an element of your consistency that isn't quite there right now, or simply put, you're not as consistent as you want to be with your body, your fitness, your health, your training, your food, then this is going to be a really, really short episode to help you. What I mean by end of day checklist, I guarantee that if you end each day having done these 7 things, it's virtually impossible to not feel good about yourself. It's virtually impossible to put on weight. It's virtually impossible to not keep your strength, your muscle that you built this year. It's virtually impossible to not be in a better place than not doing these 7 things. Okay, so I'm just going to shoot straight into them. And the reason I wanted to do this episode at this time of year, the time I'm broadcasting this is the 4th of December, and just sort of following on from last week's episode, if you missed it, which was socializing in December without getting fat, I really, really wanted to just share some simple podcast episodes that really, really simplify and reduce overwhelm when it comes to keeping you healthy and on point. Because I think it's the biggest month of the year, as I said in the previous episode, where most people are off it. And I think given the choice, if I had a one-to-one conversation with every single person who's listening to this podcast, I said, right, do you want to be off it with your health, fitness, confidence, how you want to feel? I don't think anyone would say no. No one wants to be off it. Oh, sorry, they wouldn't say yes anyway. Okay? So make sure, if you want to bulletproof that consistency, by the end of your day, you make sure you've done these 7 things. Number 1, you've took your body weight on an empty stomach. Let me say that again. You've took your body weight on an empty stomach. Most people in December are not going to want to take their body weight on an empty stomach. But for me, it's the number 1 month. If you are trying to stay consistent with your health, fitness, body shape, and weight, you should take your body weight. Why? You're going to be paying attention to the one metric that most people don't want shooting up. So if we're not paying attention to our body weight, especially in December, and then we're over-consuming at parties, social occasions, end of year parties, etc., then there's going to be blind spots. We're not keeping a pulse check on our weight management, and by default, it's going to impact how we feel. So I really encourage every single person listening to this podcast, take your body weight on an empty stomach every single day. Maybe after a couple of days off at Christmas, all right? Because we know that's going to fluctuate a little bit for most people. But I guarantee if you can take your body weight on empty stomach as much as you physically can, you're gonna have more of an awareness of the foods that you've eaten the day before. And if you don't like what you see on the scales, then you are more likely to eat healthier food after that on that given day. There might be some gurus out there who disagree with me and they associate weighing yourself every day as negative. I think it's absolute bullshit. If you look at if I look at the trends from my years in health and fitness of people who stay in shape year round from those who don't, the people who stay in shape weigh themselves consistently. The people who don't stay in shape don't. It's a bit like people that I know that have enormous wealth. They are checking their finances. They've got a pulse check on their numbers. They're showing they value money. And then people who, don't have as much money, they're not paying attention. They're erratic. All right? So if you want to be consistent, take your body weight on an empty stomach. The next one, these are really, really simple. But again, remember, what is simple to do is also simple not to do. So the first one around body weight is, for me, it's about discipline. It's like the end KPI of the thing that you are trying to keep consistent, which is body weight. The second one, by the end of your day, make sure that you have completed a weight session, a cardio session, and or as a minimum 10,000 steps. I guarantee if every single day you have made sure that you've moved, whether it's around steps, cardio, weights, you are going to feel good and you are going to naturally feel consistent. Movement shifts mood. I'm yet to coach anyone who doesn't feel good when they are moving regularly. Most people who are stuck, not feeling good, reactive behavior, don't move as much. So if I was to ask you right now, tell me the best weeks of the year this year that you felt on point, you felt great, full of energy, I can almost guarantee you moved more and exercised more, even if it was just walks on those given weeks. So don't end your day without knowing you haven't moved, lifted, cardio, or steps. The next one is really simple one around food. I think one of the biggest problems that affects people's consistency and affects how they look is they don't eat enough protein. So if you can end your day making sure that you've eaten at least 150 grams of protein across your day, if you're a man, maybe 100 to 120 if you're a woman, I can guarantee that you are significantly more likely to have managed your calories and not overeaten. The most common thing I see in people who struggle with their weight, body fat, body shape, they don't eat enough protein. So a really, really simple thing to make sure you've done at the end of your day is had 150 grams of protein. Right? If you want to be really specific, you can have 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, but I think most men, if you had 150 grams of protein combined with some weight training stimulus and movement, you're going to be in pretty good shape. But the big thing for me is it's just going to prevent you from overeating, as I've said on previous podcasts. And if you wanted to simplify the protein even more than that, instead of having 150 grams or just thinking, God, how am I going to do that across the day? Every time you eat 50 grams of protein. Most people eat 3 times a day. So if you are making sure that you've got 50 grams of protein in per each bout of intake, then that's going to take care of your 150 grams of protein. Okay, so the first 3, discipline with your body weight. Second one is weights, cardio, or movement, or steps, sorry. So that's basically your movement. Third one is simply protein. And I'm not getting into real food, added sugar and all this stuff. I'm just trying to simplify it even more. When anyone is ever stuck with health and fitness, the first thing we're trying to do, the first macro is increase your protein, because that will generally curb hunger and prevent cravings. Next one, don't end your day without knowing or having drank 4 litres of water. I'll say that again. Don't end your day without having drank 4 litres of water. And that might seem a bit extreme for a lot of people. But if you are drinking 4 litres of water, again, you're far less likely to overeat. You'll have more mental focus. You'll feel more hydrated, more energized. And it's just a really simple thing that doesn't cost a lot of money to do. And it generally looks after the amount you eat. And of course, if you're training, you can never train optimally without water in your muscles and cells. The 5th one is bed by 10:30 p.m. Now, I know different people have different routines and ideal bedtimes, but as an average, I would say all the clients we've coached, the ones who've got their shit together, are more disciplined with food, are more consistent with their training, they're in bed at a reasonable hour. And I think having a 5th step of just making sure you're in bed by 10:30, especially during a weekday, it's just a really, really simple thing to do. Because for many people, by going to bed by 10:30, by default, that takes care of the morning habits of getting up early starting the day strong, whether it's straight into work with a focused task or having more energy and more motivation to train and move, or because you've slept well and slept earlier, you naturally wake up in a proactive state, and you naturally want to eat healthier food. Most people who eat shit in the morning are tired, they're stressed, and they're probably gone to bed late, and you're just lining your day up then to fail. The last two is, I suppose, a little bit around mindset and energy. I think it's a really, really simple thing to do, is rate your daily energy. So before you go to bed, rate your daily energy. High energy, okay, or low energy. And the reason I say that is, if you are taking literally 10 seconds to evaluate, how was my energy today? Was it high energy? Was it okay? Was it low energy? It can help you then evaluate what you did during that day and maybe what you did the previous day that has created that energy. Because you may have a random day when, I don't know, everything went right at work, you had a great conversation, you met a certain person, and that lifted your energy. But for most people, the energy you have is going to be created by what you do, how you live, and the habits you have. So if you are ending a day having evaluated, God, I've had an amazing day full of energy, that didn't happen by chance. So what were your rituals? What were your habits? What did you do? What did you do differently that day as opposed to the days maybe when you are lacking energy? So if you didn't like that answer of how was my energy and you rated it low, what did you do differently on the days that you have low energy as opposed to the days you have high energy? And by default, that will reverse engineer more of what you need to do and more of what you don't need to do. Lastly, rate how good you feel. Generally, you're probably going to find that if you have high energy, you're going to feel better. If you have low energy, you're not going to feel as good. Because I really believe energy and emotions are linked together. The better you feel, the more energy you have. The worse you feel, the less energy you have. So they work hand in hand. But rate yourself, how good did I feel today? Did I feel great? Did I feel okay? Did I feel bad? And what were the reasons for that? How did you start your day? What happened during the day? What were you doing more of? What were you doing less of? What places did you go that maybe influence how you feel? What was the structure of your day? Again, the emotions that you feel and the energy you have, for me, are the NKPIs of the inputs in the system that have created that feeling and that level of energy. And if you can have a simple pulse check on, how energized or not you are and how good or not you feel, then it's so much easier then to create predictable progress the following day if you want more of that feeling and more of that energy. So let me just do a recap. This is the end of day checklist to help regain consistency. So basically, before you go to bed, try and do these 7 things. Or make sure you've done these 7 things. You've took your weight on an empty stomach. You've either done a weight session, a cardio session, or steps, 10K steps, or maybe a couple of them. Long story short, you've moved. Food, you've eaten 150 grams of protein minimum if you're a man, 100 to 120 if you're a woman, maybe a little bit more if you're a hardcore lifter as well, but just you can't really go wrong with those 2 figures. The 5th one is you've drank 4 litres of water. 5th one, you're in bed by 10:30. 6th one, you've rated your daily energy, high, okay, or low. Last one is rate how good you feel, great, okay, or bad. So some are linked to movement, some are linked to food, some are linked to health optimizers in the form of water. And then there's a couple, of course, that are related to your mindset, your energy, your emotions. I promise you that if you did nothing else but these 7 things, you would be a lot more consistent than maybe what you are now, or maybe you'd just be at a higher level of consistency that's more aligned to the standard you're trying to create in your heart. So So simple as that. As always, I'd love to hear your biggest takeaways and feedback with this podcast. If you are a regular listener of this podcast, please never hesitate to reach out to me personally if you'd like me to cover a specific subject in greater depth. It could be something I've spoke about now, so I could elaborate on any of these in greater detail. Or maybe there's a specific challenge or barrier right now that you really would love a different perspective on. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've been through so much in my life, personally, professionally, made so many mistakes even this year. But I know what it takes to be consistently healthy, in shape, whilst running a business and having a life partner, etc. to think about. So, as I said at the time of this podcast, it was 4th of December. But whenever you're listening to this, I'm guessing it's going to be in and around December time. Remember what you said to yourself at the start of the year with your goals, how you wanted to feel, what you wanted to do. And remember, every day matters. Don't be that person that is a couple of weeks away before Christmas going, it doesn't matter now, there's only a few weeks left. It's nonsense. There is an awful lot you can still do to make sure that if you are feeling a little bit disappointed with your actions, your behavior, your standard this year, you can still do an awful lot to correct that over the next couple of weeks. And hopefully today's podcast has just give you some food for thought for that. So thank you as always for listening. I'll see you next time.